Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tackling a massive problem that plagues organizations literally everywhere. We're talking about how to rescue a carefully crafted strategy from becoming a beautifully framed, but, let's be honest, entirely useless wall plaque. Let's dig right into the source material and figure out how to stop these documents from just disappearing into the day-to-day chaos of our operations.
Get this. About 2/3 of strategic plans fail as a result of poor execution. 2/3. Just think about the thousands of hours, the intense leadership retreats, the pricey external consultants, all that effort, and for 66% of organizations, it all just falls apart at the finish line. You end up with a beautiful, glossy document sitting on the CEO's desk, doing absolutely nothing to actually move the organization forward.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to ask yourself honestly, right now, is your strategic plan a living, breathing process, or was it just an event? The source material shares this wild story about a department chair named Bob. So, Bob needed a strategic plan for an upcoming accreditation visit, right? He throws together a 20-page proposal, asks his team for feedback, and someone flat out asks him, hey, is this to actually improve our department or just for the accreditation? And Bob admits, yeah, it's just for the visit. The team signs off, and that binder sat unopened on his desk until the accreditors walked through the door. That is an event. What we actually need is to build a continuous process.
To solve this execution crisis, here's our roadmap for today. 1. The strategic action cycle. 2. Defining the strategic intent. 3. Navigating the 5 forces. 4. Execution and balanced scorecards. And finally, number 5, tying strategy to budgets.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the strategic action cycle, bringing the plan to life.
Successful implementation means you have to treat strategy as an active loop, not some linear path with a dead end. You start with strategic planning, sure, but then you immediately roll into budgeting, then implementation, and finally controlling and monitoring. Now, what's really interesting about this is how budgeting and monitoring are completely integrated right into the implementation phase. It's not just a handoff to some different department. Your strategy dictates the budget, which fuels the implementation, which is then constantly monitored. That way, you can control for problems and loop right back to the planning stage. It's totally seamless.
Moving on to Section 2, defining the strategic intent, anchoring your organization's purpose.
Your strategic intent, which includes your mission, your vision, and your values, is basically your organizational true north. We all know these baseline terms, right? But the absolutely crucial part is that they actually have to inform all of your future decisions. If an organization is fuzzy on this core identity, or if leaders are running around chasing multiple, conflicting intents, you are guaranteed to waste resources, suffer from endless indecision, and deeply, deeply frustrate your workforce.
So look at your own mission statement for a second. Is it packed with corporate jargon, or does it actually tell your team what to do? The source text notes that 80% of mission statements are boring and completely unmemorable. A bad one is super lengthy and uses buzzwords like synergy or paradigm that nobody actually says in real life. Take an older mission statement from Avon. It was a rambling 249 words long. Literally, nobody can remember that without a photographic memory. But a good mission statement, it's concise, it's actionable, and it actually stirs emotion. Take Eli Lilly's mission. It's just 17 words. Lilly unites caring with discovery to create medicines that make life better for people around the world. It's simple, it's totally understandable, and it's deeply actionable.
Let me share this really powerful anecdote from the research that perfectly captures why vision matters on a daily basis. So, a man walks past a construction site and asks 3 different bricklayers what they're doing. The first worker says, I am laying bricks. The second worker says, I am building a tall, strong wall. But the third worker looks up and says, I am building a cathedral for the glory of God. Now, whose work do you think is going to be of higher quality? When you emotionally connect that grand vision to the day-to-day tasks, your team stops just laying bricks and starts building cathedrals.
Next up, Section 3, navigating the 5 forces, analyzing the market battlefield.
So the crucial point here is that you absolutely must analyze your external environment. And Michael Porter's 5 forces model is pretty much the ultimate framework for this. It looks at the possibility of new entrants, the threat of substitute products, the power of your suppliers, the power of your buyers, and the overall rivalry among existing sellers. These 5 forces dictate the actual intensity of competition in your market. Say supplier power is really high, like a pharmaceutical company holding the exclusive patent to a life-saving drug. Well, they can dictate prices, and your strategy has to adapt to that reality.
I want to pause here for just a second. Think about your own organization. How high are your barriers to entry?
If you're out there making incredible margins, how easily could a new competitor just waltz right into your market and disrupt all your carefully crafted plans?
If your barriers are low, you're highly vulnerable. Strong barriers, or moats, are what protect incumbents. One massive barrier is economies of scale. Just think about the sheer amount of capital required to build a brand new hospital with all its expensive technology and referral networks. That definitely deters a lot of casual competitors. Another barrier is high switching costs. If you lock a customer into a specific software system, or if an insurance network makes it incredibly costly for a patient to change primary care doctors, you're creating a moat, and that secures your strategic position against those new entrants.
All right, moving into Section 4, Execution and Balanced Scorecards, the dashboard for your strategy.
This is where we bring in the Balanced Scorecard, originally created by Kaplan and Norton. This brilliantly illustrates how we have to look holistically at our results. It challenges us to measure success across 4 distinct dimensions: financial, metrics, customer or stakeholder satisfaction, internal business processes, and learning and growth. The takeaway? You can't just count the money and ignore the rest.
Think of the balanced scorecard exactly like the dashboard of your car. If you're cruising down the highway at 70 miles an hour, you cannot drive safely if you're only staring at the gas gauge. The gas gauge is your financial metrics. Sure, you absolutely need to know if you have fuel, but you also desperately need the speedometer to check your pace, and that check engine light to monitor your internal processes. Tracking your company's culture, employee retention, and quality metrics is just as critical to safely arriving at your destination as your financial profit.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, tying strategy to budgets, funding, and tracking the results.
Take a look at this number, $140,000. In the source material, there's this example of a healthcare system opening a new surgical center. They budgeted for 2,000 surgeries in April, but only actually performed 1,000. By doing a quick budget variance analysis, just comparing their budgeted amounts to their actual results, they discovered a net income loss of $140,000 for that single month. By strictly monitoring budget variance, leaders get this immediate, glaring feedback the second execution starts going off track.
It all boils down to this harsh but completely necessary truth. A strategic plan that isn't fiscally connected to a budget is not based in reality. Honestly, it's just a hallucination. If your strategy calls for opening 3 new clinics, but your capital budget hasn't actually allocated the funds for the buildings, the staff, or the marketing, well, your strategy is going to fail. You absolutely must intimately link your strategic commitments directly to your financial resources. And to track this properly, you really need the right kind of budget. A static budget is fixed. It expects one specific level of volume, and when reality inevitably changes, it becomes way less useful. But a flexible budget, that adjusts based on actual volume and cost changes. Flexible budgets give leaders a much more realistic, responsive tool for controlling problems mid-execution. It allows you to adapt on the fly without losing sight of the big-picture strategic goals.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to take a hard look at your own organizational dashboard. When you're tracking those metrics, managing those budgets, and evaluating your market position, what is it all actually for? Are you just chasing a static number? Just laying bricks day after day? Or have you perfectly aligned your execution, your budget, and your team's energy so that you are building a cathedral? Let that question dictate how you approach your strategy tomorrow.